Japan Station is made possible in part by the generous support of patrons like Sean Connolly. Sean, thank you so much for joining the $3 a month plus alpha tier. And what that means is that Sean is getting access to a currently Patreon exclusive podcast that I'm producing. It's called Japanese Plus Alpha, and it's focused on the many interesting quirks of the Japanese language, and I talk about interesting words and their origins. For example, I just uploaded episode 4, which is all about a couple of words that are still in use today in the Japanese language, and they are very much a result of the old way that people used to tell time back in the Edo period and before. So if you want to find out about that, you got to join the $3 a month plus alpha tier. It's fun stuff. I enjoy recording those, and I put quite a bit of time and research into them. So I think probably, even if you know quite a bit of Japanese, you're going to learn a little something. Anyway, if you want to go ahead and do that and support the show and japankyo.com and all that stuff, then head on over to japankyo.com/Patreon and sign up today. Welcome to Japan Station. I'm Tony Vega. Okay, just a quick note here at the top, but I do another podcast. It's called Ichimon Japan. If you haven't checked it out, I recommend that you do, because I guess you like Japan-related content, and that's what we do over at Ichimon Japan. That one is hosted by me and my friend Ryan. We are classmates from the University of Hawaii, where we went to attend the master's program in Japanese language and linguistics. And on Ichimon Japan, we talk about funny, interesting, weird Japan-related topics. We actually do a lot of research, and I always try to include stuff there that you can only find in Japanese. So there's some pretty unique stuff over there. The latest episode is about Japanese school rules, stuff like you can't dye your hair, you can't get a perm, and male students must wear helmets at school. That last one I know is a very weird one, but we also discuss some more widespread ones like the hair dyeing and all that kind of stuff. So go check it out at japankyo.com/Ichimon Japan or wherever you get your podcasts. As for today's episode, well, it's quite a hefty one. It's a little bit longer than usual, but it's for a very good reason, because my guest today has an amazing, amazing story, and I just loved talking to her. She was like a character from a shonen manga. You're going to hear her talk about that, and I mean that in the sense that she took on something really, really difficult and never gave up and kept trying, and she's still trying, and she's kept on going and going and going, and her story is just so inspirational. I love it. I love it. I love it. So she goes by the stage name of Reina, and she is a voice actor in Japan. She's originally from London in the UK, and she came to Japan to attend an actual legit voice acting school to become a seiyū, and seiyū is the Japanese word for voice actor. And like I said, her story is just amazing, so I think you're going to enjoy this. But she also talks about a recent project that she started, and it's ongoing, and there's a whole lot more coming in the not too distant future, but I just want to let you know about it right here. It's called Anigorin. Ani comes from anime, gorin comes from the Japanese word for Olympics, kind of. Well, gorin literally means 5 rings, but it's usually used to refer to the Olympics. So the idea of Anigorin is to produce an original anime short. Okay, so Reina wants to produce an actual original anime short produced with Japanese and non-Japanese creators working together. And she wants to use this as a platform in order to encourage like multicultural exchange and giving people these kind of really unique experiences to work together in a way that maybe hasn't been done before. So it's really, really interesting. You can find Anigorin on all the major social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's all Anigorin. And she's also working on a website right now, which might not be up by the time this episode is up, but maybe it's up by the time you listen to this. So that would be anigorin.com. And she's also going to be doing some crowdfunding in the near future. So when that gets going, I will, of course, let you guys know. But all the links can be found in the show notes or at japanstationpodcast.com, episode 46. That is the full version of the show notes. Anyway, time for me to stop talking. Let's get to it. Here's my conversation with Reina.
right side will open.
I was reading the article that was in the Japan Times about you.
Yes.
And it mentioned how in voice acting school you had to learn how to do like a 1 minute. It's called jiko PR, so it's like a introduction slash self promotion kind of thing.
Yes.
Do you remember what you had to say?
Long time ago. Yeah, basically, okay, to some degrees, basically,
Yeah.
the GCOPR thing.
Yeah.
It's like a 30-second to 1 minute self introduction to sell yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And this one isn't limited to voice acting, but any TV, modeling, entertainment job, even as a foreign talent. So you introduce yourself. Generally, for us non-Japanese, they would say, like, of course, introduce what country you're from, your name. If you speak multiple languages, you would say how many languages. And typically, they kind of want to hear, what do you like about Japan? So you can that, especially in the modeling, TV related entertainment jobs. What is it you like about Japan? And for those ones, the non-voice acting ones, the general ones are generally free. The idea is you have to, well, I'm using Japanese English, appeal. You have to
Right.
kind of spark their interest. So you can kind of design it as your own way, I guess. You could make it very clever. You could just keep it simple and say the food you like and the places you like, or any particular traditional Japanese art you're interested in. But for voice acting, the audition process, this is part of it, but also there's a bit more. For the voice acting, there's an actual structure, kind of a set one, which I can explain if you don't mind. I'll go into it as well. For the voice acting one, so the Jikopi actually isn't that much time because you're supposed to showcase your talents more. So you introduce yourself first, and then for voice acting, you would have been given a script, typically with 2 parts. And the first part is character acting. So there may be about 5 short paragraphs which you need to read vertically. They're vertically written, and you need to choose one. And typically, you can imagine what kind of anime character each paragraph is via the language. You can kind of see the hair color, the personality, because anime characters are typically based on stereotypes. So at least I can kind of imagine it when I see the language. Oh, yeah, it's this kind of character. And within that 12, 15-second piece, you need to demonstrate various analytical skills as well as your acting skills. And that's the first part. Then the second part is narration, which is a slightly longer piece. And with this, you need to, again, choose one and then demonstrate your intonation, your tone, your accentuation, and delivery choice. So unlike the West, Japan gives you a script to work off from, which is 1,000 times easier for me. And Western auditions, which I'm going to really try and better myself at having to choose monologues yourself, stresses the hell out of me. Like, seriously. I don't know. Like, typically, how would we know what to pick to demonstrate our strengths instead of having a select choice and then just focusing on the delivery as you would for an actual voice job? You know, they give you the script, or acting job is the same. You give you the script, you memorize it, and it's someone else's words, and you make it come to life via your voice. But the West is all about choose your own monologue. I'm like, I just want a script. Please give me a script. That's all I've been trained in the last decade. Give me the script and I'll make it come to life. That's a big cultural difference between the two as well.
Interesting. So, okay, so when you're introducing yourself to, I guess, like a potential somebody that might hire you or a talent agency or something like that, I assume that you would do the Jiko PR, that introduction, and then you go into those other things you were mentioning, like the different characters, like you look at the sheet and you read the line depending on the thing, the description of the character and all that kind of stuff?
Yes, you choose. Okay. Well, you're given the script before you go in, so you choose. You make your choices like in the waiting room before you go in. So everybody's practicing. Everybody has scripts, and you're all standing in a room and you're all practicing, speaking aloud, getting ready, and then you're called in one by one, typically. So it's slightly different depending on the agency, but that's the general pattern and what we are trained in school as well.
Okay. So I do want to discuss the voice acting school and the training and all that stuff a lot further, but I want to go back a little bit and I remember hearing that it seems like your gateway into anime was Fist of the North Star, which was rather unexpected. I think most people, they seem to say, like, or at least around our age range, they seem to say Sailor Moon or Dragon Ball. For me, it was also like Saint Seiya, Captain Tsubasa. But, you know, Fist of the North Star kind of came out of nowhere. But how did that come about? I love Fist of the North Star. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But... Randomly.
Yeah. I mean, with animation was already a big part of my life as a child, because I loved and grew up with cartoons like Looney Tunes and Thundercats and Mysterious Cities of Gold, which I found out quite recently. It was actually made and broadcast in Japan's NHK first. So it's a French-Japanese collaboration, most likely anime, before I even know what anime was. So Mysterious Cities of Gold, that's a shout out. If anyone knows what that is, please message me.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
Oh, please do. And so I've seen snippets of anime as a teen, but I didn't know it was anime because it was dubbed in American English. So with Fist of the North Star, the video was like rated 18. And my innocent self was like, why is a cartoon rated 18? Cartoons are for kids. So that was initial, just trying it, just like, what is this? Let's have a look. So I watched it and it blew my mind figuratively. And in the anime, it's literal.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah, exploding everywhere.
Was that
I was like,
the movie?
Wow. I think so. Yeah. I think so. This is where I kind of knew this is not a normal thing. And it was like, this is a cartoon but not for kids. So when I turned the back of the VHS, I saw the words made in Japan. That's the first point. This is why I use this moment, like, okay, that is anime. This is not our thing. This is something completely different and new. And that was it. After that, I became a shonen fangirl, which shonen is like being a genre within anime for stories aimed at young teenage boys. So other famous titles like Naruto and Demon Slayer, which is Kimetsu no Yaiba, and Dragon Ball were all published in the Jump comics, and they fall under this category. So that's I'm just like into this shonen anime thing. And then jump forward about 2 years of watching Pokemon, Digimon, Card Captor Sakura, and this came on TV, in British TV back in the day. And then I had to choose my degree for uni, and I found one with a joint degree system, which is like a double major system, and computing was one half. So I was looking at the prospectus and I came across Japanese and modern society and saw the option of study abroad in Tokyo, and then it kind of hit me. Like, wouldn't it be great if you go to Japan and go to voice acting school and act with Japanese people and sing and dance with Japanese people? And the other voice was like, yeah, that would be great. Let's study Japanese. And so that was the birth of the dream from those crazy voices in my head and looking at the prospectus. And then anime became a learning resource for my listening comprehension and vocabulary from day one of studying Japanese, from zero at university, much to the horror of my Japanese teacher, especially in the first year. So that's the connection with anime, and of course connecting it to the crazy dream that I had and coming to Japan.
At what point did you come to understand Kenshiro's tagline, "Omae wa mou shinderu"? You are already dead.
I think from the beginning, because it's really taking me back now. VHS? The subtitles were embedded. No, it was English dubbed, I guess. I think. It had to be, of course. How far back are we going to another whole dimension right now? So they had to have been dubbed.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, licensed and dubbed. So it was in English, I guess I heard it. And only, I think, when I came to Japan for my year abroad, I might have heard it for the first time in Japanese. And it was like, soon even more. So it's so cool. And then I realized, the Japanese language, it really does add extra elements because the verbs are at the end of the language.
Yeah.
And that's dead. but English,
Yeah.
the verb is second, and it doesn't have the same impact that dangling you are already 1, 2, 3 dead. It doesn't quite work in English.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
they
yeah.
use that technique in anime so much, and it's
So
so
much.
fun when they do so. That's part of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
joy of
yeah.
it.
Yeah, tons of like verb endings. Is it a negative or is it not negative? Oh, what's
Uh-huh.
it coming? What's it going? Oh, okay. Now I know. Now I know. And it keeps you kind of in suspense until the very
Exactly,
end.
exactly,
Yeah,
and that's part of, I guess, creating kind of tension and excitement
yeah,
in the
yeah,
whole anime genre. So it's a lot of fun. Japanese language is a lot of fun in that sense when you're
yeah,
writing and creating scenes as well.
yeah. Oh, and I mean, I guess we might get into this further, but like the speech styles of the different characters and the
Hmm.
particles at the end that are associated with the women and the old man and this kind of
Hmm.
character and the cat girl and this and that, and there's so many interesting little variations there. But
So many.
uh
That was part of the reason why I traumatized my Japanese teacher in the first year
how
because
so? What do you mean? What do you mean?
because I didn't know that Japanese language it's separated by gender. It's gender based.
Ah,
And
uh-huh.
so I was watching Ranma half,
Yeah,
Nibu
yeah,
no Ichi, and
yeah.
that was part of my listening comprehension. So I was studying Japanese at uni, I was watching anime as well at the same time. So I would
Mhm.
Ram in the story, Ranma has a boy Ranma and a girl Ranma.
Yeah.
And I naturally like the boy Ranma,
Mhm.
the actual Ranma. So
Yeah.
I would hear these Japanese words and I see the subtitles and I start memorizing all his Japanese. And
Right.
then I will go and tell my teacher it, like haraheta. She's like, oh, no, you can't say that. That's slang. No, you must say onaka ga suita. And then I was like, then I would say ikoze. And I'm like, no, you can't say ze, you're a girl. No, then I would say like, okay, ikuzo. No, you can't say zo, you're a girl. You can't say this, you're a girl. That was my whole first year at university. Just, you can't say this, you're a girl. You can't say this, you're a girl. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
rubbish. I don't
Yeah.
like this language anymore. Why am I not free to like say the cool Japanese? I want to say ikuwayo. It's just so girly and yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly, being then from the beginning, I have to be restricted to what I can and cannot say based on my
Yeah.
gender. This is yeah. I
Right.
think many languages are like that, but English we don't have that. Thankfully,
Yeah. Not
well,
not
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 to
as
that
much.
extent.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah. Yeah.
those endings, and those prepositions will change the
Hmm.
character. You can identify their
Yeah.
status, their age, maybe their job, their character, just by those prepositions. But
Yeah.
listening to
Yeah.
them is fun. Trying to use and master them is a
Yes.
headache.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like I said, listening to them is really fun and you get a good feel for the character like really quickly, but it's not something that you want to copy verbatim in your daily life.
Nope, I did that.
No.
Don't follow
Yeah.
Reina.
Yeah.
Don't copy everything you hear from anime, please don't.
Yeah. Yes. All right. So you go to school and you study Japanese, but how do you go about like going to a vocational school? Because like for one, there's the visa and there's the money and there's a bunch of issues that would make it very difficult for most people to be able to do that unless they were born in Japan and have like Japanese citizenship. So,
Mm.
how did you go about that? What happened? Like, could you describe?
Mm, Studying Japanese was at university in the UK, so
Hmm.
I graduated, I finished everything, and then I spent a couple of years saving up money.
Hmm.
And I managed to get back through the working holiday visa. Ha 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 ha
Mm,
ha.
nice. Americans don't get that. Yeah.
I know, I heard. However,
Yeah.
Australians get way longer than Brits, and I don't like
Oh.
Australians for this. We get 1 year. Again, I'm going to speak of a long time ago, 2008. So
Uh-huh.
I have no idea what the legal process is now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the working holiday, someone informed me of this, and so they said you need this amount of money, you need this amount of stability. So I just focused on 2 years on just working, 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 working. What you call now grinding, I guess people would say
Yeah.
now,
Uh-huh.
just to save up that money as much so I can go to the embassy and apply for this visa.
Right.
So that was my way back in initially. And then,
Hmm.
hello, Lehman Brothers shock. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Not, it didn't go too well. It was
Uh-huh.
pretty tough. I think around the whole world, that recession was
Yeah.
really really tough. So I then I started doing. Of course, you have to stabilize yourself. So I started doing just English teaching, just to stabilize myself, get an income and stuff. So I had a
Hmm.
normal working visa initially, and again, I'm speaking of quite a while ago. So now I hope it is slightly more lenient than it was before. And of course, with the visa thing, most schools would say we don't sponsor visas for international students. That has changed, so I've heard. And it's increasing, especially within Asia. Students from Malaysia, Taiwan, China a bit, Korea, and one more. Philippines. These five, because the whole anime manga industry is getting more and more popular, are doing a lot of these international student programs in these voice acting schools. And Japan is realizing that they really do love our stuff. Okay, so I'm hearing it's becoming more open, and that now more schools in Tokyo and maybe Osaka as well, maybe will sponsor foreign students with the visa. So that's with a student visa, you can stay and study. That was not the case in my situation as well. I kind of went a different kind of way. So I was working and studying at the same time. It's not easy. I made it work. So that was initially, and then I had my savings as well initially. So that's how I kind of did it in terms of visas. But now it should be possible. And as for getting into the schools, I started applying for these in 2010 and 2011. So I think the way in now would be through the school's website, but I had to call a few. And you would first request for a prospectus and be on their mailing list for future information. And some schools would also have open days listed on the website, which you could apply for to kind of get a feel for the lessons and the feel of the campus environment. And of course, you would need to be able to read and write in Japanese to communicate, ideally. So since I was already in the country, aiming to become a full-time student for the 2-year course, I went to many open days, many trial lessons. I checked out many voice acting schools before settling on one. And to apply, I had to handwrite long essays in Japanese about why I wanted to join, fill in their forms, go for the interviews, and in our case, take a Japanese language test and pass all of that before getting into a school. And the minimum linguistic requirement is a JLPT N2 level. So basically, it's an entrance exam, which you get a lovely letter saying if you passed or not. And then you can start. So that was my way back in the day, because it's such a long time ago now.
So I guess you had, by the time that you got into the school, you had already been in Japan a couple years working and basically trying to make it work?
Yes, I went to 2 schools. The first one was Yoyogi Animation Gakuen, and I did the Saturday voice acting course because I was working on the weekdays, and the Saturday I would do this course just to kind of prepare myself for the 2-year course. So I did that part-time course first, and then when I passed all the exams and got into my actual acting school, then I became kind of a full-time student and still was continuing working as well. So 3 years actually for me of education, of actual training. And so yes, but I had been in Japan 2.5 years by then. Pretty quick. It was good timing. Pretty quick. I made it work, and then in I was, and I had no idea what was waiting for me.
Okay, so you get in, and what's it like? Like, do you actually have like classes? You go to a classroom and a teacher like tells you what to do, or is it more like independent study? Like, how does that all go?
It's it's a senmon gakko, which is like, it's not quite university and it's not quite school, not high school anymore. It's in the middle. But they still will, at least in my experience, they still will kind of treat you like a child. And so like it was more like, I guess, close to high school for me, what it felt like. And I was way older than most of my classmates. So it really was a huge cultural experience. And we have a set schedule, Monday to Friday, some Saturday special course, but Monday to Friday. So if you're into anime and you like the high school drama stuff, it's very similar to that. So either art imitated life or life imitated art. I'm not sure. I was mixed between both, and this was fun and confusing at the same time. And in my case, it depends on the school as well. So the facilities and the teachers. And I was very lucky to have a school with amazing facilities. So you can spend most of your time in the school practicing in the studio or
Mm-hmm.
reading manga or hanging out with your mates on campus. Everything was internal on campus. And the
Mm.
classes themselves, from my side, my curriculum had 4 core classes. So vocal expression, acting for seiyū, which is voice actors,
Mm-hmm.
emotional expression, and studio work, which was the technical side.
Mm-hmm.
And the other 3 consists of just hardcore script analysis. So we would read a few pages of a scene, had a week to bring our flavor to it, and then present, and then get critique, and then rinse and repeat. And that's generally the whole 2 years. And the other
Mm.
classes that we had included modern dance, traditional Japanese dance, presentation, and speech class, radio narration class, and end of semester performances where managers from companies can view us all. So lots and
Mm-hmm.
lots and lots
Mm-hmm.
of rehearsals for those as well.
Yeah.
And yes, there are school clubs that you can join, and
Mm.
like there was a student council stuff that you see in like high
Yeah.
school anime drama. So it
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
exists in real life. And
Uh-huh.
so yeah, I really did feel like I was in an anime school show itself, and it was
Uh-huh.
reality, but it wasn't reality. It was a really weird, happy feeling. It was really, really bizarre but funny.
Uh, the scripts that you have to practice and perform, like, are those like scenes from actual like anime or something already that exists, or are those like original things? Like, where do those come from?
That's an awesome question.
Mm-hmm.
And I had 3 different classes. Give me a moment.
Mm.
So the ones from anime was actually only for our end of semester performances, because we would demonstrate on stage, and
Mm.
we would have the anime scene on TV on the
Mm-hmm.
screen, and
Mm-hmm.
so we are dubbing live to it.
Wow.
And that's an event that many say you do in Japan,
Yeah.
and you can sell tickets, and it's so fun to see them just standing behind the mic with the script in their hand, and the anime scene is behind them all, and they
Definitely.
just are basically working, but it's a performance of work on stage, and it is fun. So
Mm-hmm.
we did the same thing for our presentation. In that situation, we used anime scripts. So we did Durara, and we did Macross. Which Macross was that one? The one with the 2 girls with pink hair and green hair.
I don't think I've seen that one,
You
so I
don't know
can't
that
remember
one?
which one that
I
was.
kind of know their names, but I'm afraid to say their names wrong. So I think
I've
just saying
only
that
seen
people would
Macross
know.
Plus, so I can't help you too much.
Okay, that's fine. I don't watch it at all, but I just know of it and all the songs because we did it for our show.
Uh-huh,
So I
uh-huh.
can't remember which Macross that one was.
Yeah.
And we did Evangelion, one scene from that
Ah,
as well, and
uh-huh.
something else that won't come to mind right now.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
few. We had a few.
Yeah.
So those actually using anime was actually for the show. In class, no, we did a lot of classics. We did Shakespeare even. My goodness, in Japanese, that was,
Wow.
yeah, it was challenging. So
Uh-huh.
for the acting in Japanese, with that teacher we did a lot of children's stories. So a lot of
Mm-hmm.
famous books and children's stories to bring out the characters. Because for
Mm-hmm.
children, you have to make it a bit bigger, a bit more fun. You can add
Mm-hmm.
silly voices. So we did a lot of children's stories, just original stories.
Yeah.
For emotional expression, that was the challenging one. That was
Mm-hmm.
Shakespeare. That was, again, these stories that I used as radio drama scripts in Japanese. Some
Mm-hmm.
really deep stuff, generally about 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So quite a few pages, but we would do like a few pages here and there, and experiment. So not anime. And for
Mm-hmm.
vocal tone, I forgot the title. It was one American classic.
I checked with Reina after the interview, and it turns out that work that she was trying to remember, it's called The Glass Menagerie. And yes, it's very well known, and it's by Tennessee Williams.
And I counted it in Japanese, and then I checked out and I saw that, oh wait, there is an English. Oh, this is an English. Okay, it's an American. Okay, I see. It was kind of like that trail of
Yeah.
thought process. But straight, I went to the Japanese one. That was hard. That was very, very hard to read in terms of vocabulary. And
Ah.
so it really is a challenge. Japanese is, I think, officially the hardest language for a native English speaker to learn. and just the sheer amount of vocabulary and analysis that I had to do every single week just to first be able to read and then check the intonation and then get my mouth around it and understand it. And then I could begin to, think about my acting. So that ended up being the last thing. It's just getting to read it. It's the huge, massive hurdle that all native English speakers would have with taking this on if they want to try.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the kind of texts that we got. A whole range, but some very academic stuff as well.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, anybody can learn the hiragana and just butcher their way through it, but that's not the point.
No, what they do really, really, well, at least my teachers, what they stressed a lot was your reading comprehension has to be incredibly high. You have to read a lot. You have to have a broad sense of the stories and the authors in Japan, the general tales in Japan, the nuances. And this is not just for us. This is like, well, I say us, not for non-Japanese people. I mean, for all voice actors. You have to have an incredible level of reading comprehension. That's what they're kind of also looking for. So when you get a script, you know what the kanji is on there. You're not spending too much time checking the dictionary. You understand the nuances behind each character that's being used. I don't want. I might end up going into that, but you can have, for example, the word to see. You have a basic character, but there's another level of that which has a deeper meaning. It means to really see and analyze. And so you have to know those tiny nuances. It's the same reading, the same meaning, but the nuance is deeper or not so deep, depending on the character used. That's kind of the super insane level of reading comprehension that they ideally want you to aim for. And so we were told that many, 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 many times.
And you just said by the character you use, but you mean like the kanji specifically, how it is actually written, right?
Yes. The meaning is the same. It can be miru, it can be to look, but there's a standard one. The standard one thing people we're speaking verbally, so
I know the normal one you see is the one that looks like an eye with the legs on the bottom.
Thank you. That is beautiful. I love that. Thank you.
That is the kanji that you're gonna see maybe 90% of the time, I think.
Exactly. That is so beautiful. But the other one that I know of is this one. And I can't even begin to describe
I know
it.
that one's much more complicated, but there's another kanji for miru.
Yeah, there's quite a few actually. But that one that I usually use sometimes, it has more of appreciation of what you're looking at as well. So it's just like, why? With Chinese, you have one kanji, one reading, and it's finished. Why Japanese must you have 10,000 kanji for the same reading with 2,000 different so it really is. It's so challenging for voice actors in Japan that themselves carry an electronic dictionary all the time, and they will discuss with themselves literally how to read their own language. I promise you that will be the first few days or weeks. If it's like, even if it's staged where you'd have to memorize it, just being able to read and understand what you are saying is the first hurdle of all the natives here, even though it's their own language. And it's just like, wow, that's there. It's tough, this language. It really is.
Yeah, well, there's emotion and intent in the way it is written, right? And it's your job as the person portraying it to bring that to life.
Exactly.
Basically,
Therefore, you need the reading comprehension to be very, very, very high. Yeah. So I'm going deep. Like, everyone thinks it's just anime. I'm like, voice actors, you have to remember, we have jobs outside of anime. We are also like podcast hosts, radio DJs. Every single voice you hear on a train, in the supermarket, is a voice actor or a narrator. And then, of course, Japanese TV loves their voiceovers on everything. That's all voice work. That's all voice work as well. And the Saigen dramas, so reenacting, those things, again, dubbed. So the dubbing business is huge in Japan, maybe the most in any Asian country, as opposed to just listening to English and getting used to English as a native language. They always keep it in Japanese. So there's a kind of an oral wall
Yeah.
that they cannot really hear English so well compared to maybe the Philippines or Taiwan, where you have multiple languages on different TV channels.
Definitely.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so in Japan, the dubbing industry is huge. So all of this is voice actors. All of this is seiyū. Anime
Yeah.
is the most glamorous, perhaps the most fun, but it's the tip of the triangle at the very top, the hardest to
Right.
get in,
Yeah.
but the one that most people want to get into.
Definitely. Yeah.
So we're trained for all of it. We're trained for all radio, narration, um, especially a lot of radio. We did a lot of that as well. Presentations, announcements. Yeah, we're trained for all of that.
Like one uh, tone or style of voice that you often hear, especially I think you hear it a lot from females. For example, like maybe in like a train announcement, or like this program is sponsored by like the Goran no sponsor no take it, like that kind of thing. Like it's this kind of like high pitched, almost like I don't know how to describe it, but do you know what I'm talking about? Is this kind of
Yes.
very in a way, I don't mean it in a negative way, but a fabricated kind of tone to the voice.
Yes.
Did you have to practice that?
Um, I think we weren't told do it like this. No way.
Mm-hmm.
What I do love two of my teachers for, and they said from the beginning, they said, do not make a voice. If you make a voice, you will get no work. They were like just like harsh or like bang, and we're
Wow.
like because that again, I guess so.
That's
I think
great.
just your average Japanese person would think I have to put on an anime voice,
Yeah.
and in the West, I think we, especially with, I can't speak so much for American cartoons. I don't know what's happening over there or how people approach it, but most Westerners might say, how many voices can you do and what voice can you put on? Whereas Japan was like, no, use your own real voice. Do not copy, because the problem is everyone is copying those squeaky high voices. And it's, the industry people are tired of it. They're the ones who will hear so many auditions and work in that kind of shows. So they are exposed to it all the time. They want something fresh. They want something new. That's what's going to make you stand out. Don't copy is what our teacher said from the beginning. So what it was is that when we did the radio narration class, and that was an amazing class. I loved it so much. We were trained on intonation and accentuation. And there are certain techniques that we have to do to speak, which kind of naturally puts you in that weird voice that you just mentioned. We will all end up naturally kind of being like that, sounding like that, but it still is in our natural tone range. So it's more techniques. And one of them, bidakuon, but I don't know how to translate that.
It's like
kind
nasal.
Yes. You have to speak through your nose with a nasal tone, and that is again a gender stereotype or gender preference from Japan of hundreds of years ago, where the woman has a soft round tone to the strong sounds like G. So the normal Japanese G is ga gi gu ge go, but if I put it into bidakuon, it becomes ga gi gu ge go, a little bit nasal, but it apparently brings a softer, nice, mellow tone, and that's where it comes in those kind of voiceovers with the sponsors, and that's what a lot of women would train those techniques, and I think naturally then their voice would end up like that.
Yeah. No, I love that you brought that up. I was just about to ask you about that because I studied that in my master's for our Japanese phonology class.
Ooh.
And we actually discussed that where,
Ooh.
It's a like the back of the mouth, like nasalization kind of thing, like, right? And so it kind of softens the sound. And what you just said there, like the bidakuon, right? B is beautiful, right? So it's supposed to sound nicer. It's supposed to sound more beautiful. Yeah. So that's, sorry, quick correction. I got that wrong. It had been a very long time since I thought about bidakuon. And so I was just in the moment there, but I got that wrong. The B in bidakuon is written using the kanji for nose, not beautiful. However, bidakuon is considered nicer, softer, in a way, more beautiful. And by the way, the dakuon refers to the voiced consonants that you get when you add the two little dots to hiragana or katakana. For example, the ka ki kuke ko sounds become ga gi guge go. If you want some more examples of bidakuon, I will include a video in the show notes at japanstationpodcast.com. That's so interesting that there you go. They taught you that.
I'm surprised you learned. I was like, wow, really? I mean, did you guys have to actually do it? Did you guys try?
We didn't have to like perform it, but it was just part of like one chapter. I don't remember it specifically. We were probably talking about variations with like nasalization.
Okay.
And because the whole class was about the sound structure of Japanese. And so we would go into certain tangents like that are not everybody speaks like that, but this is a thing that exists, you know?
Mm-hmm. And I was taught it as well. I'm like, okay. And I just studied it, tried it, taught it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. Hey.
Yeah, like especially
I
like
mean,
when
I'm not crazy. What I'm saying is true. Yay!
Absolutely. Yes. I love this linguistic stuff.
Yeah, we can do that to the side. We're gonna talk a lot. I think I like you. You're my new friend now.
Yeah, like you
I
hear
can definitely go on to language so much.
Okay.
But we can go to the next question.
Yeah. No. I was just saying, like, you hear it, like, especially like NHK or like on the radio, like you hear like the Joshiana, right? The female announcers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, they all have that kind of style of speech. So like if you listen to Japanese media that's outside of anime, like you hear that pretty often.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
All announcements, all narrators have to do this. They got to train that.
Yeah. Huh. So going back to the finding your own voice thing. So when you're performing, for example, you're doing that showing to perhaps the people that are coming from maybe an anime company or talent agency or something like that, and you're performing something like Evangelion or the Macross thing or whatever. Like, are you trying to bring your own voice into that? Are you bringing your own fresh perspective on that, or are you trying to shoot for what already exists?
Definitely, they will say "kosei wo misete kudasai." So, and this is, I guess, it really depends on the school and the teachers and their philosophy of how they want to train us. Mm-hmm. And as I mentioned, like within the first few weeks, our teachers were like, "Don't even think about copying what you already hear in anime." It really was just the first semester, primarily for my classmates, not for me, because I already had my own individuality just being there. Yes. the only non-Japanese person in the entire school. Geez.
Yeah.
Entire acting side of the school. It was just literally for my classmates to just even discover what their individuality was. Mm-hmm. And understand what their voices sound like. Is it a high? Is it a tone? Is it chesty? What's their range? So I guess like singing, you would learn your range, you would learn the type of voice you have before you could try and sell it and utilize it. And that was the training. So when we did our presentation, of course, it was to show the variety. Everyone was using their natural voice as much as possible. And demonstrating that. And yeah, we really had some really interesting students with very unique voices. Just that's their natural tone. So it was really fun to hear, fun to listen, fun to watch each other on that sense.
I'd love to check.
So for me, it's just primarily just as long as the intonation is fine, then it sounds like Japanese to them. Then my tone, depending on the character, would change. Otherwise, I don't try to completely mask it. But I never got a character that had the squeaky, typical anime voices. Right. So one character I did have, it wasn't for the anime background scene. It was for an anime, but most of the things that we did was performing on stage with the script in hand. So the live performances, and we might use our bodies a bit. So it's called dramatic reading. Is what it's called, and that's quite a normal thing as well for professionals and for students to do in Japan, which I happily did in 2017. That was as a voice actor, which was fun. And in school, I was playing. This was so much fun. I played, the Mother of All Darkness. It was like an RPG fantasy story, and I loved the story so.
Oh, cool!
Like I could see it as an anime. Literally, it was written as one, I think. But
Mm-hmm.
we performed with the angels and the demons, and I was the mother of all darkness. So I was a fallen angel
Uh-huh.
cast to the dark side, but the head of the heavens was actually a bad guy, and I was
Uh-huh.
actually the good guy. But I
Oh,
was under
cool.
a curse, so I couldn't tell the hero that this was the real truth, and it was amazing. So they kind of semi tweaked and wrote that, I think, for me,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
kind of well, in a way, it was kind of separating me, but my teacher was like, in the same time, because it's my own world and I'm the boss of that world,
Mm-hmm.
I can create her as any character I want. I have the freedom of
Mm.
bringing really me to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I did. I enjoyed it. That was playing a bad quote unquote bad,
Yeah, yeah,
a
yeah.
baddie and stuff. And so yeah, the character, she could speak, but she couldn't speak as well. And she turns the whole story around because that's when the hero finds out the truth.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Comes to the dark side, yay! So in that sense, yeah, I used my general voice, my tone, and what I said and practice I spoke in Japanese was naturally in that. But I had a huge stage presence, is what everyone keeps telling me.
Oh,
So
that's
I
awesome.
captivate the audience when I'm on stage. I'm like, I like that. That's my bookie.
Yeah, that's
Yay! That's
fun.
the bookie's advantage.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, Buki, like okay, okay, gotcha, gotcha.
A weapon, yeah, it
Yeah,
literally
yeah,
means
yeah, yeah, yeah.
weapon.
I was
It
thinking
literally does.
English. No, you were speaking Japanese there.
So I'm happy, and I'm also slightly aghast that
uh,
I will be speaking English and Japanese words will naturally come, and I didn't even notice I was speaking Japanese, or it slipped out unless someone tells me, what did he say? Oh, did I just speak in Japanese or English? I'm not sure. I'm just sorry. But I'm happy that it's also seamless for me now. Thank goodness.
yeah, yeah.
So buki, it literally means weapon, and they use it in the context of you need to have your weapons. In other words, you need to have um, strong points, something that will
Right,
set you apart from other people.
right, right,
So
right,
you
right.
pass auditions and people remember you and things like that.
So after you graduate, what's it like then trying to actually get into the industry itself? So did you have you been able to get any jobs in Japanese specifically?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a two-part question. So let me just
Mm-hmm.
go back a moment.
Sure.
How did I get into a voice acting industry? Okay. So for me, it was through my school.
Mm-hmm.
And I think many Western acting schools have the same process where for your final year show or performances, managers and people from the industry will go to the schools to watch the shows.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, it's a showcase of talent. And then they will follow up if they're interested in you. And I like normal universities trying to find an agency to get into, or trying to find a company to into for university, is called shushoku katsudo, which is job hunting.
Right.
And my school was insane with that.
Mm.
So it was only a 2-year course. So as soon as the second year began, it was like, get into an agency, get into an
Mm-hmm.
agency, get into an agency. And I'm just thinking, can we enjoy the classes first in the first semester? We just became second years. And they're like, nope, get into an agency. And lots of presentation classes, lots of showcase performances, and the actual job hunting fair our school runs. So for me, it was serendipity for the agency that I got into because they were looking for an actual bilingual voice actor.
Mm-hmm.
And my acting teacher recommended me for the audition interview with the head of the agency, and the rest was history.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, this on record because it is important,
Mm-hmm.
that I did not pass 90% of all the job hunting agency auditions purely on linguistic skills,
Mm-hmm.
as in getting a script only 5-10 minutes before you go on and being able to perfectly read it to the panel, which I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't. And even if I could, my nerves made sure to keep it at 85-90%,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes 50%, depending on how nervous I was.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, what are they looking for linguistically? You may be asking. The answer is native level Japanese. Then
Mm-hmm.
you may be thinking, but we are not native speakers.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, exactly. So, if you can read the sentiment behind that, then you have an accurate idea of the typical mindset in Japan, which is
Mm-hmm.
the country where you want to manifest your dreams. So,
Mm-hmm.
let's say you've heard all of this, and you still say, no matter, I want to be a voice actor in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got the fiery shonen spirit burning up within you, and you've got the makiru wake ni wa ikanai nda serufu in your head, then I will tell you, okay, don't aim for JLPT level 2, but aim for N1.
Yeah.
Before you get to Japan would be better, ideally.
Mm-hmm.
And as obvious as this is, which I wish someone could have told me, is copy Japanese accents in anime, but train your ears to hear the standard Japanese intonation called hyojingo. Because native Japanese or not, decent teachers will strictly correct you on it.
Mm-hmm.
And some other advice I'll give to the listeners. In addition, read aloud all your beginner's Japanese textbooks from the start.
Mm-hmm.
If you are using an app like Duolingo, copy all the voices while reading.
Mm.
And what you need the most is to recognize the kanji and read aloud with perfect standard intonation
Mm-hmm.
with emotion.
Yeah.
And that was a mental linguistic skill that I didn't nurture in time. So I could read very well silently. I could emote and act the strongest, but I couldn't read aloud so fast. And if I could read at natural speed, then my intonation was wrong.
Mm.
And I didn't even know there were 4 types of pitch accents.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know this. No one told me Japanese was Chinese here.
Yeah.
And so an example I'll give you, one moment. Okay. An example is hashi no hashi ni hashi ga aru. And the 4th pitch would be hashiru
Uh-huh.
or taberu kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And the one pitch accent I didn't know is called heiban, which is the flat one.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know it existed until after I got into voice acting school, and that was a bit too late. So mine was a very rough journey from the start. But there were 4 types of pitch accents, and mastering that, well, to be honest, no one really ever masters that. That, again, like I said, all voice actors, no matter how old they are, will have the dictionary on hand
Yeah.
for their own language to find out what is the pitch accent.
Definitely.
And this is the bane not only for us non-Japanese, but for them themselves as well. So yeah, they have the dictionaries, the official NHK one that we actors and voice actors in Japan all use.
Yeah.
So from my own painful experiences, this is the wisdom I pass on to the next generation who want to take a shot at this. And I believe you gave me the second question. Have I gotten a role or acted? In anime, not yet. But on stage and on film, yes. Happy to say. I've professionally acted with 99% to 100% accuracy. I always put that 99% in there. It's probably 100. In other words, with no iwakan, which means the sense of feeling something is off.
Yeah.
So they can see me, but they hear like a Japanese native speaker, and that means, oh, there was no iwakan, they will tell me. It was in my own vocal range, using my English chest voice, depending on the role, but my intonation was on point, and I was acting with renowned Japanese actors too. So I think I'm most proud of myself for my stage experiences, both as an actor and voice actor, because it's live.
Yeah.
Can't mess up. And I had to do that at least I did that at least with the main biggest role job that I had. I was on stage. We had a total of about 32 shows over 5 weeks.
Wow.
And yeah, to pull that off every single day was like, I can do this. This is it. But it isn't something I can do on my own. So this is a Naruto reference I'm going to make, because he and I are the same in so many ways. And really, truly. And Naruto, he struggled throughout to attain a lot of the ninja techniques, whereas his teammates Sasuke and Sakura excelled in class, or they could pick them up effortlessly. But he found ways to attain them outside of conventional thought. So, for example, one of his signature moves is called the Rasengan. And instead of creating the spinning energy ball on his own, he creates a clone to work together with him to achieve it. So he cannot do it the normal way, but he can do it in his own way. And it was the same for me. Yeah. So I have been, and I am still blessed to have a friend who checks on my intonation. And if I memorize my lines, I can say it no problem. Though granted, though, that a part of me is always checking myself when I do. So my wish is to be able to have many opportunities of acting in Japanese without the negative stereotypes. So I can say a lot of words with the mental leeway as I do when I'm speaking English.
Yeah.
But I've come to realize I need to create those chances myself, which I am. So that's I think will answer the question
Yeah.
in that sense. But yes,
Yeah.
anime not yet. It's coming.
Yeah. So, well, okay. So speaking of anime, so I think given that you watch anime, you have watched anime, and maybe you don't watch it so much right now, but I still do watch anime sometimes, and it still comes up. But every once in a while, you see a very caricature of a foreigner, pretty much like speaking in a "watashi wa gaikokujin da" kind of thing, right? And
Yeah.
and like I know it can depend, of course, just on the show and exactly how it's done. But I'm just curious, like for you as a person who went to a senmongakko to study to be a seiyū, a voice actor in Japan, and your own personal background, what goes through your mind when you hear that sort of voice in an anime?
Yeah. I think that one word might just sum up your. But no, I'll explain.
Yeah.
I'll explain.
Yeah.
So for the Japanese voice actors, because they're speaking in Japanese English anyways, there's a kind of a disconnect to how we really are.
Yeah.
So I think I've gotten used to it, and I'm not that bothered anymore. But I think it probably did really grate my younger self when I first heard it. And I do reject those who tell me those are the roles I can play. Because I tell them, I actually can't, and this is true, I cannot play those kind of roles because I've trained my muscles and my ears to speak Japanese naturally,
Yeah.
not brokenly.
Yeah.
So I truly can't do that. It's going against my mind. It's unnatural. I've trained so hard and so long to speak like you guys. I can't break it terribly. Rather, I think Japanese people can do that the best because they don't really know what native English also sounds like.
Yeah.
However, if a non-Japanese person does this, this is my feeling. It feels like they're selling us out because it reinforces the Japanese people's convenient idea of non-Japanese people can never speak Japanese naturally. And it makes it 10 times harder for the rest of us with dreams of acting together with them.
Yeah.
So if Japanese people don't literally see and hear from all of us from around the world, see us as well, like speaking fluently, acting naturally in their language without it feeling off more and more, then nothing will change and nothing will evolve. So in Japan, it's truly a seeing is believing, not believing is seeing country in every single aspect of the society. So it's on both sides, if it's Japanese people doing it or non-Japanese people doing it. But for us guys, we should not, ideally, I would love people to reject those kind of jobs. It's not a stereotype we need to enforce. Rather, we need to break this. To be honest. So
Yeah. No,
the rest
think...
of us behind the scenes are like, it's a long road ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like it's by, I think more characters should be depicted as maybe you're not speaking Japanese 100%, but maybe you're speaking it like 90% there, because there are plenty of excellent Japanese speakers that, yes, you can still identify that they are not, born in Japan, but they're speaking like incredible Japanese, nothing like that stereotype that I just, kind of tried to mimic right now. But yeah.
As you said, it depends on the anime show as well and the reason they're using it.
Yes.
But if it's Japanese people doing it for, to just create laughs between themselves, and technically we're the outsiders looking at it.
Exactly.
To be honest, even though we're in the country. In that sense, like I said, it doesn't bother me so much because it's within their own language anyway. They understand what they're saying. Sometimes even I don't understand it when I hear it, which means this is Japanese. It's not even English. It's just Japanese. So it's foreign anyway to me, which it can kind of work. But no, we definitely, more and more of us, there's so many of us, we're out there and we can speak the same intonation and act in it. So it just needs to be shown a lot more. A lot more.
So, all right. I'm curious about, like, you were working on a project, that was related to the Olympics, and of course things are
Yeah.
crazy with that and all that. But
Yep.
can you explain what that was and offer an update? Like, what are you thinking? What is that? Are you going to do something with that? Are you
Yeah,
adapting? What's up?
I have so much to tell you. So
Yes, please, please,
much.
please. Okay, I want to learn
So
because when I learned
much
about it,
actually.
I followed you and I wanted to see what's going on now.
And actually, this is a kind of I'm going to slightly add a separate topic and continue with this as well,
Mhm.
because we're in this lovely, and this is, I mean this obviously sarcastically, this
Yeah, yeah.
lovely pandemic stage, this era of the global pandemic right now.
Hmm.
So, for which, funnily enough, I actually got my first 2020 English narration jobs in April and May
Uh-huh.
during the state of emergency in
Oh.
Tokyo. So I've been working actually on narration jobs as well. This is like a complete blue moon moment to
Uh-huh.
get 3 separate jobs and pass the screening with them within 6 weeks.
Interesting, huh?
So
Uh-huh.
this whole pandemic thing didn't affect things too much for my narration work, as we're usually in a studio
Yeah,
on our
yeah.
own
True.
and talking to the sound engineer or the director through the mic.
True, yeah, you're
And
isolated, yeah.
yeah, at the moment as well, there isn't a current system for remote voice work
Mm-hmm.
for those who belong to the traditional Japanese agencies, because usually you would go to the studio, meet voice actors from other agencies, and all work together.
Mm-hmm.
However, this is really interesting. Just the other day, Sony has made bold declarations of setting out to conquer the entertainment world with anime, including recording outside of the studio.
Oh.
So,
Uh-huh.
yeah. And I'm like, really? You're going to start breaking like decades of tradition here? Really?
Uh-huh.
So, time will tell on that note. Should be interesting.
Mm.
So, on voice work, I've been working, and like this is like, wow, within a short period of time when we're supposed to be like all stay at home, but I
Yeah.
can go to the studio. Yay! However, what the pandemic has affected is my latest crazy dream project, which is called Anigorin,
Mm-hmm.
which, yes, I would love to update you about.
Yes.
So,
Mm-hmm.
rather first, let me briefly introduce what this is about.
Yeah.
I think for anyone who's heard it for the first time. So, Anigorin is made up of the words anime and gorin, which is the Japanese word for Olympics. So, anime Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
And it's my dream project to create the world's first international collaborative anime in every single aspect of doing so, based in Japan, here in Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
So, from the music, the singing, the voice acting, the animation, the script writing, the production, the translation, and much more. Each sector will have Japanese and non-Japanese professionals collaborating together. So it's a massive, perhaps the biggest multinational collaboration to make a 12-minute anime short.
Mm.
And why am I doing this? Because the crazy voices spoke to me again.
Yeah.
Or rather, I was hit with a vision
Uh-huh.
of seeing the end result this time round. And as soon as I got home, I wrote about it. So it's recorded in digital stone
Mm-hmm.
as to why and when I began this.
Mm.
And secondly, it's never been done before,
Yeah.
which is more than enough reason.
Definitely.
And because it's never been done, it's super exciting to create a new reality and leave it there for everyone to enjoy or be inspired from.
Mm-hmm.
And what has been miraculous for me was the first time I publicly mentioned this to a Western audience in my Black Experience Japan interview last summer. The support that came has been incredible, like
Really?
way beyond anything
Mm-hmm.
I could have imagined in terms of faith. And that's what keeps all of us dream chasers going. That energy of faith that crosses time and space and spiritually energizes us to keep going through hurdles. So that was my first miracle. I need a few more.
That's awesome.
And I think you might have noticed as well, and you might have mentioned or noticed that
Mm-hmm.
the social media accounts haven't been active.
Mm-hmm.
That is correct.
Mm-hmm.
That's the pandemic at work.
Mm.
So while I haven't been active to public eyes, I have been active behind the scenes, which I'm going to get into. So this is the update.
Yeah.
This is the update now. So following last year's summer announcement, autumn saw me going back to networking, and I joined the IMART event, which stands for International Manga Anime Reiwa Toshima Festival.
Interesting. Okay.
And it was a 3-day convention and the first of its kind. And out of like 300 to 400 Japanese people for the first 3 hours of the day, I was the only non-Japanese person there. And in many of the panels. And by the evening, I think I saw like 2 or 3 other visible non-Japanese people. But here's a fun fact. Domestic international events are usually 95% Japanese in mindset, design, and participants.
Yeah.
I was reminded of that when I went there.
Mm-hmm.
So, however, from that event, I managed to set up 2 business meetings, one being with the Ministry of Culture.
Wow.
So suddenly I had to spend weeks creating Japanese business presentations on PowerPoint and presenting those.
Whoa.
So that's the end of the year. That's the end of 2019.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
now
yeah.
we jump to 2020 February.
Mm-hmm.
So I get new business cards done. I join a self-improvement seminar called Develop Yourself to Inspire Others, which is a 10-month course.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been essential and thankfully continued on Zoom after April, which has given me a clearer picture and the organizational structure of who Anigorin is.
Mm-hmm.
So Anigorin is a she to me.
Mm-hmm.
So she has grown together with me that I can now speak better on business investing terms instead of just my ideals and desires, which is essential, but not what investors or corporate people want to hear. So
exactly.
I have learned.
Yeah.
And so now I know her as an NPO. Anigorin is a social cause.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, creating a brand new platform for non-Japanese people to collaborate together with Japanese people in the entertainment industry here,
Nice.
in the Japanese language, in an international work environment, not the traditional work environment that currently exists. And of course, it creates a brand new platform for the Japanese people who do speak English and other languages to get the experience of working outside of the traditional Japanese environment and learn how to interact with people of all personalities and backgrounds. So it broadens one's mind.
Yeah.
And so I like the Olympics, encouraging international sportsmanship between athletes. Anigorin encourages international work relationships and friendships, building bridges beyond Nihonjin versus Gaijin, which is beyond the current Gaijin foreign talent world versus the traditional Japanese talent world. So, as I mentioned in my interview last summer, we currently have a frame with only round holes, but we non-Japanese come in all shapes. So Anigorin aims to create a platform that deliberately utilizes all shapes, including the circles, to create a fresh new kind of work. And once it's been proven, it is done. And it leaves a small legacy of hope to all people who have dreams in Japan or Japanese people who have dreams in other countries. So migrating for your dream is a massive, courageous endeavor, but take action based on your faith, not your fears. And that will be another piece of advice I will leave to the listeners. So I slightly digress. February. Let's go back to February. Pandemic. So we had the cruise ship issues in Japan. Remember those peaceful days?
Yep.
Like, geez, that was crazy back then, but now it's like, oh yeah. That happened, and that was before we knew what was really going to happen. And then comes March. All international anime business events are held in Tokyo, including Project Anime Conference, which I had my eye on for a year. And I missed 2019. And I was like, there is no way I am going to miss it in 2020. It is perfect for Anigorin to get her out there and make connections. So I get my tickets ready and I'm hyped and I'm excited. And what goes and happens?
Cancel.
Gets cancelled. The International Anime Fair also gets cancelled. The Nagoya Cosplay Summit gets cancelled. Like everything got cancelled in March, April. And I think this was felt around the world. Like all spring, summer events just got cancelled, and it crushes you. It really, really, just takes the wind out of you. It really crushes you. Definitely, so the joy of anticipation for the future was just snuffed out like that. So it's emotionally crushing, and being forced to a standstill at the end of March, April meant we all had to face and deal with the global fear and the panic and the anger and the sadness and the frustration. And we were all dealing with that in different ways, and not everybody can be instantly productive. Or rather, just sitting, being with your feelings, and processing the trauma of a global pandemic is being productive.
Sure.
I think we Westerners don't preach this enough. So healing within, recuperating, reanalyzing your goals and dreams in life while death is so prevalent is productive.
Yeah.
It is necessary to look within and take stock of yourself.
Yeah.
So asking yourself, am I okay? And if not, then how can I get help? How can I get better? How can I get stronger? So spring for me this year was truly a healing, spiritually rejuvenating time for me. And I simply engaged in what brought me joy, such as watching anime, watching online Western theater, which was such a blessing to see professional acting again, especially from the West after so long. And I started journaling more and writing so much. And of course, attending the monthly MPO self-development workshops, starting up Anigorin and my own websites, listening to lots of motivational speaker videos such as Les Brown, building up my mental resilience, becoming stronger. So all of this may be physically inactive, but it's incredibly productive. So what we have to show for it, we get to feel within ourselves. So we shine from the inside out. So again, like a main character in a shonen anime like Naruto, it was my training period to get much stronger and get
exactly.
butt again.
Exactly. Yeah. You need the training, like 10 episodes of training. Yeah.
Exactly. You need that. Well, for them guys, it's more like you got beat by a really bad boss. For me, I guess for all of us, the pandemic has just kicked our butts.
Yeah.
Then for them guys, they will have this crazy training where you've got to pass it or you die.
Yeah.
And usually they end up passing, they become stronger, they get new clothes, they've leveled up. Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
And with me, I only have myself with Anigorin at present. So if the creator's MPSP bar, which is like the magical points, spiritual points bar, is at 0 and I lose hope, then who will believe in me or in Anigorin either?
Yes.
Which is no one.
Yes.
So she came to me. I have to manifest her successfully, and I will. Actually, I know I can do this. And of course, I'd love the process to be much faster. And one Japanese cultural business advice I got was the need to have a dream team. But basically, don't approach the Japanese public too much as an individual entrepreneur, but as a small team of people. So ideally, I need a bilingual Japanese native speaker purely for the business correspondence while I deal with the English side.
Yeah.
Or, of course, any nationality is okay, but they would need to have an exceptional level of keigo, both spoken and written. And most importantly of all, they would need to be as insane or even more so than me to devote their time and energy into going all out with me and making this work. So as it is an MPO, there is no financial compensation at present. So it's truly to have that blessed encounter with someone who believes in Anigorin, believes in what I'm trying to do, and doesn't mind teaming up with little old moi. So I got lots to do. I got lots to do with Anigorin. So I would say, like, prioritizing it. I have so much to do from so many angles. I'm getting split apart, but I kind of managed to narrow it down. So website, concept art for the story, and crowdfunding pages are my top 3 right now.
Right.
But yes, she is still alive and kicking.
Good. All right.
And we still need all your support and all your love to help her grow even more. It was just that her creator needed to level up, nurture her soul, and recharge her HP MP bars over the spring. But it's usually in autumn when I'm most creatively active. So I'm looking forward to the upcoming months.
Awesome.
I got plenty to do with her.
So let me just make sure I understand. So right now the goal is to create an animated short, an actual short, but that will be a kind of stepping stone in order to make this project where, Japanese will be able to work with foreigners and, interact in this kind of multicultural way and try this new work
Yes.
environment, etc. Like all those things that you were
Yes.
discussing earlier, right?
Yes, it all be part of it. It will all be part of it. And one of the things that I stopped walking. What hit me when I saw this vision, and the voice just came to my head. And I guess it's just my own personal growth or something I need to work on is I don't give myself much credit. And it hit me that I've been in this industry for it is now. Wow. 10 years. Wow. Okay. That just hit me right now. I was just calculating. I was like, oh my gosh. So I've been in this industry a long time. I've worked with so many people, met so many people, know so many people, and it's a very small world. It's scarily small. I don't think there's any other Black woman in Tokyo who actually has professionally trained and professionally been on stage. They all know me. It's scary in that sense.
Well,
and I realized I have all these connections. I can bring them all to make this thing happen because they all know me. And that's what made Anigorin like, it can happen. This is a thing. It's a thing. I know everyone in almost every sector of making anime. I just need to bring us all to just like team up to become the biggest, awesome, best team in the world. But we're all in Japan working so hard. And it's not shown. At the same time, there are so many Japanese people who are amazingly bilingual or trilingual, but they kind of hide it. I don't know if it's out of shame. I don't know if it's out of just the environment that you're Japanese, so you don't have to speak another language. I don't know what it is, but there is no real platform. And so many I've worked with said, I want to go to America. I want to go to the UK. I want to act in English. I want to have international opportunity. I hear this, and just the current system doesn't have it. It doesn't exist. So that's me being quite a bit of a rebel here.
Right. Facilitating those things, right? Ideally.
Exactly. Of creating something that has, it has a need, but it doesn't exist. So it's not, the old system will always be there. I'm just trying to create a choice for all of us. For all of us, no matter of nationality in Tokyo. And we all, it's just everything I just heard over the years. It's becoming more and more international.
Right, definitely.
So, yeah, that's my rebel kind of crazy. That's why it's called a crazy dream.
Well, I mean, you decided to go to a voice acting school. That's already kind of a rebel in a way. That's
I just jumped over here and just like I'm getting into a school. I don't know how I did. What I actually jumped with. This is why I tell people, please don't copy me. Try not to. I jumped over here with my savings, my passport, my ticket, and that was it, and the visa, and that was it. It was like. Oh, well, I had somewhere to live, but it was just a temporary stay, and I had to find somewhere to live. I had to find a job. I had to just start from kind of, I won't say scratch, because I've been in Japan before, but I would say maybe 10% in the middle of that global recession. And I'm very young, but mainly on my own. And, as immigrants around the world, it's such a hard thing to do. I don't think people truly understand what it means to let go of every single safety net and gamble your life in a foreign country where the law system works against you, no matter the country. Nothing really is in your favor, but you're coming with your dreams and your hopes, and that's how you're going to make it. You're going against a lot of backlash, no matter the country. It's not just a Japan thing. And that's what generally the majority of immigrants are. They take that on and they still try to create something better for themselves or their family. So in that sense, just please, if you do come here and if you go in through the school, or if you find a school that can sponsor your visa and you settle down, please come in here and settle down. Don't go crazy gung-ho style on me with like, just visa and money and passport, let's go. That literally was me. I was young.
Well, it worked out, I guess, like it was.
It has. And thank God I'm still here. Thank goodness. It's been tough. I can't lie, and I don't have any rose glasses to give to people. I tell them it's not easy, but it can be done.
Definitely,
it can be done.
So I will include any relevant links, of course, in the show notes as always, japanstationpodcast.com and all that.
Thank you so much, Tony.
Is there any like specific thing about Anigorin, like a website or specific social media that you would like people to know? Like, this is the main one that I'm using, or is that still kind of in flux right now? Like, either way, I'm going to have links in the show notes, but...
Yeah, you definitely have links.
Yeah.
So Anigorin, which is spelled Anigorin, I claimed all the social media links, thank goodness. I was like, no one take my name, no one take my name. And yeah, very important, very important. So, of course, thank you so much for having me on the show. This show as well, linking on it, will be on Instagram and on Twitter. Twitter, I think, is the one where you can see the timeline of everything I have been doing on Twitter, easier than on Instagram as well.
Gotcha,
but number one, and what I'm in the middle of, is the website.
Okay.
Because I realized I got the social media stuff done like a year and a half ago, but again, from having done the course and now learning and just picking up and growing myself as a producer, creator, founder, I don't know what my role is. Everything. I learned that the website is kind of the central hub, and everything I've just said right now in the last 10 minutes needs to be in text as well, and with image, so people can see it with the structure and what I'm trying to achieve, and understand it and understand that information. So it needs to be a central point on the website. And of course, the social media links will be connected. So I think for now, social media, of course, please do share and please do join. And I can apologize in advance, it'll be a bit quiet. The website, I believe, has to come first. At least this is what I've just sat with myself this year and thought, okay, let's get the central hub done first. Then all social media will link from that. At the same time, the concept art, the story, I wrote the story last year. The story also was already written in my head. So again, for crowdfunding, the second stage of that, I've been advised, a lot of people I've been talking to about this, that ideally you still need to have good concept art. So illustrators I have to start looking for, just to get the sketches and the basic imagery of the main characters and have that ready. And then set up the crowdfunding pages. And once that all gets kicking and running, I think naturally I will have a lot more content to share on social media. I think you can give me some tips for this. I think you are definitely my senpai in creating and setting up projects and running a website and stuff.
If you have any questions, we can talk about it later. But as that stuff comes out, I'm happy to remind people in a future episode or whatever, by the way, that thing we were talking about in the episode with Reina, it's out now, so you can go crowdfund, et cetera, et cetera.
Let's do it.
All right, so I'm happy to remind people.
Definitely want to get the... Oh, thank you so much. Definitely want to get the whole world on it. Because it's just, as I said, that miracle that I got, I was not expecting the reaction that I got last year. I was oh, people believe in me. It can be done. Cry. Literally, the tears were all out there. Like when I just saw the comments, I was like, wow, no, let's do this. No, let's really do this. And one voice in my head was like, so you weren't serious? Of course I was serious. But I mean, really now, like people can't believe in me. So that really, again, I keep going back to anime, but this is my life. And especially shonen anime is my life. But really, the whole nakama thing.
Oh yeah.
The whole
allies, friends.
It's so hard. It's so hard to explain because it's not quite friends. It's comrades.
Yeah.
Comradeship.
Yeah.
It's not friends who already support you and got you back, and it's not acquaintances. It's the one mutual goal. You will be so tight and you've got each other's back that you would die for each other kind of thing.
Yeah.
That whole nakama thing and the whole believe in me and I believe in you. If you don't believe in yourself, believe in me who believes in you. That's a reference. I hope somebody gets this. It is powerful. It really is. It is, like I said, the energy of faith. It does transcend time and space. So we're all connected on the internet here, but we feel it with each other. We really do. So, I'm so grateful, so thankful to everybody who has faith in me. And yes, I'm going to make it work. It can happen. It can happen.
Yeah, I'm looking forward
to it. Just have to raise the funds for it.
Yeah.
So,
one step at a time. All right.
Yeah.
So,
thank you.
Thank you so much, Reina.
Thank you.
Again, just look up Anigorin on your favorite social media platform, or maybe go take a look at anigorin.com. I will be including links at japanstationpodcast.com or in the show notes, whatever is easier for you. And like I said at the beginning of the show, when a crowdfunding campaign gets going, I will, of course, make an announcement probably in the intro of a future episode whenever that timing works out. So just one last thing, but I discovered Reina through a very interesting and a really good YouTube channel called The Black Experience Japan. I will include the original interview that I saw of Reina in the show notes as well. That video will be in the full version of the show notes at japanstationpodcast.com. I'm going to embed that video. It's a fun interview, and she does talk about a few other things that we did not discuss in this interview. So I think it's also worth checking out that other one. But again, Reina, thank you so much for making time. I look forward to future developments and seeing what happens with Anigorin. If you have any questions or comments, send them over to mail@japanstationpodcast.com. Remember to follow on Facebook and Twitter at Japankyo News. And of course, subscribe. That is the best thing you can do aside from maybe becoming a patron on Patreon, japankyo.com/Patreon. But also you can tell people about the show. Thank you so much to Sean Connolly for tweeting about the other show, Ichimon Japan. That was just wonderful. I always love to see that. And it's just so incredibly heartwarming to see people actually just say, I care about this show enough to tell others about it. So again, thanks, Sean. And remember to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and all that stuff. If you have a couple extra seconds, that is also deeply appreciated. Thank you to Unomi for providing the theme song. And that does it for this episode. The next episode is already in the can, ready to go. I won't say who I'm talking to, but I will give you a little tease. So the conversation starts out by us talking about pregnancy culture in Japan, and it ends with us talking about localization of NES games. Yeah, so it's a very interesting discussion. So make sure to come back for that on September 15th. All right, so thank you for listening, and remember, go find your miniature pony.
Just do it!